Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, the government sees a serious escalation in China's illegal activities in the West Philippine Sea. Beijing tells Washington to stop meddling after U.S. President Joe Biden reaffirmed his nation's ironclad commitment to defend Manila. And after the collisions in the latest resupply mission, the armed forces eyes conducting joint patrols with other nations during future trips to the BRP Sierra Madre. Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro joins us in the program. Leaders of the United States and Australia oppose what they call China's dangerous use of Coast Guard vessels and maritime militia in the South China Sea that led to the collision of Chinese and Philippine vessels near Ayungin Shoal. Last weekend, U.S. President Joe Biden reaffirmed what he called his country's ironclad commitment to uphold the Mutual Defense Treaty in case of an armed attack against the Philippines. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning told the United States to stop interfering in the issue between Beijing and Manila since it is not a party to the territorial dispute. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro. Secretary, welcome to the source, sir. Good to see you again. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Pinky. It's nice to see you again, and good morning to all the televiewers.
Secretary, let's start with what I just found out, that you actually had or conversed with Secretary Austin this morning. Please tell us more about that conversation.
Well, I requested, and we had a phone call with Secretary Austin this morning. We released a joint statement simultaneously. In this call, he reiterated President Biden's statement of the ironclad guarantees of the United States to the Philippines based on our Mutual Defense Treaty and the ironclad support. Actually, the term he used was laser focused on the alliance between the Philippines and the United States. He once again reaffirmed that the purpose of our joint operations really is for the upholding of a rules-based international order and international law. We agreed to let our respective staffs talk on increased bilateral interactions and activities and multilateral actions and activities. Finally, we talked on other matters of mutual cooperation and concern. We agreed to open the lines once again for further exchanges, and we will see each other once again in Jakarta in the sidelines of the ASEAN Defense Minister meeting.
Right. When is that, Secretary? When is that?
This month, next month, in November 16, 17, I believe.
All right. In that press release, it said that both secretaries committed to redouble efforts to strengthen bilateral coordination, interoperability, and support for the modernization of the armed forces of the Philippines. Maybe if there could be any specific actions that could happen in the short term, sir. Is there anything that you can tell us right now?
We will increase the frequency, and we will make more diverse our interoperability exercises, and they will in support of our sovereignty operations over the West Philippine Sea and in other areas.
And interoperability, there was one, if I'm not mistaken, sir, somewhere near Palawan. But the question now is really, is it possible to have joint patrols or joint sail? I don't know, sir. Sometimes there is a time that it's called a sail, a joint sail, and then there are times it's called a joint patrol. Can you please tell us what the difference is?
Well, really, a joint. Probably the terms are interchangeable.
Okay.
But a joint sail really means joint. When they pass by, our vessels join up and link up with them until they leave the territorial sea. A joint patrol is actually a focused exercise on a particular area within our territorial rights, sovereign rights or territorial jurisdiction. So a joint sail merely is passing exercise, while a joint patrol is a more focused exercise.
Okay. Is a joint sail or a joint patrol during a resupply mission something that should be done already between the Philippines and the United States?
All these options are being calibrated by our respective staffs, and they will come up with the recommendations accordingly to us. But all options are open, just as long as these are within the bounds of international law and these support Philippine interests.
Right. I know that there are some strategies that cannot be publicized, sir, but hypothetically, I hope you don't mind, if there was a joint patrol or a joint sail, for example, between the United States and the Philippines for the resupply mission in Ayungin Shoal, that is within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, 200 nautical miles. Ayungin Shoal is about 110 nautical miles, if I'm not mistaken. Would there be any, would that still be in the legal bounds of the law in the event that happens, sir?
Part of the joint patrol within these areas?
Yes, with the U.S. On a resupply mission, for a resupply mission in Ayungin Shoal, would that still be within the bounds of international law?
That is within the Philippine exclusive economic zone, so it's perfectly legal under international law.
Okay.
In the view of a majority of nations, it is just China's incredulous and illegal claim to most of the South China Sea, which goes against the grain of the rights of the Philippines over these areas.
Right.
To conduct activities within these areas.
Yeah, so basically, Secretary, wanted to make sure that there should be no problem with that. As mentioned, even within, of course, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, we have the 200 nautical miles. And again, highlighting that Ayungin Shoal is about 110 nautical miles from Palawan. So there should not be any problem legally, because that's within our territory, that's within our exclusive economic zone. And also, how does the Mutual Defense Treaty come into play? I'm not saying, sir, triggering the Mutual Defense Treaty in terms of an armed attack. What I'm saying is, how does actually that help the cause of the Philippines, for example, if there are joint patrols? Because indeed we have a Mutual Defense Treaty, which is the mother treaty of the EDCA and so on, between the United States and the Philippines. How does that help? I mean, how does that help the cause of the Philippines in terms of joint patrols within the country's economic zone?
Right. Not only in terms of joint patrols, the more direct benefit of the Mutual Defense Treaty and other cooperation agreements that we have with other countries is the capability upgrades of our armed forces of the Philippines, which I'm not at liberty to talk about because of operational secrecy requirements. Secondly, is the upscaling of the skills of our people to enable them to level up to the needs of securing our exclusive economic zone. And thirdly, it's interoperability exercises where we need to work with our allies and treaty partners and other allies in coordinated activities, not only for this, but for humanitarian assistance and disaster response and other operations.
Would you be able to say, sir, personally, if you are would like or in favor of joint patrols with the U.S. during resupply missions?
If it is recommended to me and there is a good basis for it, then I would be obliged to agree with our armed forces officials.
Obliged, sir, to agree.
But I mean, they know better than me, and I just give the legal and strategic nexus for this. So I have to rely on their thinking as to what it would be. Now, it would take a very, very hard case to go against their recommendations.
I think it was General Bronner who recently was asked about this, and he said, if I'm not mistaken, sir, if my memory serves me right, he said that, with regards to the joint patrols. I think he even went on to say, kung pwedeng bukas na, kaya lang it's not as easy as it sounds. All right, so if that is recommended, this is something that you would be obliged to implement. Sir, let's talk about the statement.
Subject to my own judgment as to the extent and other factors involving the operation. But in principle, of course, I agree with whatever they will recommend. They are the operational units, and I am the recommendatory entity to the President.
Sir, to be clear, which departments are in charge of making the recommendation? It's the AFP?
No, departments. It's myself,
Sorry.
DFA, DOJ, DNR, and the National Security Advisor.
I see. Thank you.
And of course, DOTR also, because of the Coast Guard.
Right. The Coast Guard being under the Transportation Department at that. Sir,
Yes.
the U.S. President Joe Biden, it was during a joint press conference with Australian Prime Minister, he affirmed the U.S.'s ironclad commitment to the Philippines in the wake of the recent collision between the Philippines and Chinese vessels near Ayungin Shoal. While the ironclad phrase, sir, that has been reiterated also in the past, I believe also last May during the President's visit in Washington. Siguro, sir, what kind of assistance can the Philippines expect from the U.S. after that recent collision? Or how does this affect, siguro, even the morale of the troops on the ground, with, again, a reiteration of this ironclad commitment by the U.S. President?
Well, the guarantees we knew are always there. The morale of the troops naturally is high. This statement serves as a signal to the world that the U.S. will support Philippine operations. That's why we base our operations on international law and a rules-based international order. And not only the U.S., but Australia, Japan, and a host of other countries are supporting Philippine operations in areas where the Philippines has jurisdiction. I reiterate, these are Philippine operations. We take the lead, and this is a reaffirmation that they will respect and support whatever operations we deem suitable and we deem appropriate under the circumstances.
To which there was a reaction by the Chinese Foreign Ministry, basically saying that the U.S. should not interfere with the issue. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, to be clear, that the U.S. should not interfere with the issue between the Philippines and China. Secretary, what do you say to that?
This issue is an issue for the whole world. China's narrative is it throws its face at, or the term would be probably disregards international law, because in the broader South China Sea, this has to be taken in the context of UNCLOS. So China's jurisdiction in the South China Sea is only until its 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. The Philippine jurisdiction is only until its 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone and other areas where it has jurisdiction. The rest of the area of South China Sea is the whole world's area to exercise freedom of navigation and passage. Secondly, we are a treaty ally of the United States, and the United States is supporting its treaty ally against the illegal acts of China. That is always China's narrative in order to corral all its opponents, particularly smaller countries, to corral and to stifle them. This oft-repeated narrative of China, of which it seeks bilateral talks where it uses its leverage to muscle smaller opponents, is already disingenuous. And the whole world knows the dangers of entering into the trap of this narrative. So I will disregard that statement.
We'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our source today, Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro. Secretary, also need to ask you, sir, we're live now, regarding the Mutual Defense Treaty. Is it clear to you that the recent collision between Philippine and Chinese vessels will not trigger the Mutual Defense Treaty with, that statement? There's always those two words, armed attack, sir.
Yes, it will not trigger the Mutual Defense Treaty depending on the gravity of on this scale. And we are also very careful not to trigger an event which will not to cause an event rather that will trigger Article 4 of the Mutual Defense Treaty. We are not at war with China. We don't want a war with China, but we are resolute in defending our territory, and they should respect that. And if they are responsible at all, they should not provoke incidents which will cause us to have further escalations. They are a big and powerful country. We're a small country, an archipelagic one at that. If they had any truth behind their statements that they want peace and development, they would leave us alone and engage us in a different way.
And Secretary, that seems to be the issue here. While you utter those words, China is saying the exact opposite, that we are the ones harassing, we are the ones provoking, we are the ones doing dangerous maneuvers in the West Philippine Sea. So my question, sir, is how could this possibly be resolved? Number one, is that line of communication with China still open? And could there be bilateral talks, new upcoming bilateral talks between the Philippines and China?
The Department of Foreign Affairs is always ready to talk to China. But on my own personal opinion, the talks really should be furthered on certain principles. Number one, it should be on the basis of UNCLOS and international law. Number two, it should show good faith on the part of China. Number three, they should be open, transparent, and public, so that there can be no unintended or implied or so-called whispered narratives that can be spun out of these talks. Naturally, there should be talks, but they should be based on fully grounded, well-grounded, and fundamental principles that will be institutionalized and will stand the test of time and not be subject to the whims and fancy of any administration, particularly in China.
And this could pose as a big hindrance or problem, sir, because also very recently they made again that similar statement, often repeated, about the Philippines' commitment and promise to remove the BRP Sierra Madre, to which no other past official has said that such commitment was made. And even further down the road, sir, the President Bongbong Marcos, said, if there was any commitment whatsoever in the past, I rescind it. How can we have talks grounded on those three elements that you had mentioned when, sige, let's set that aside, sir, but when they keep insisting that we have to remove the BRP Sierra Madre over there, sir?
Well, that is why. What kind of talks do they want? If they want institutionalized talks, which are fair, which are legal, and which are acceptable and binding on us pursuant to our Constitution and pursuant to our sworn mandate to safeguard the interests of the Filipinos now and for the future generations, they have to have these three principles in mind when they enter talks.
I want to jump back to the joint patrols, sir. Just very quickly, it escaped me a while ago. What about possible, just possible, sir, joint patrols with ASEAN countries?
Well, we look forward to that, and we welcome joint patrols with ASEAN countries. Actually, that is one of the issues that may be discussed by myself with my counterparts of other ASEAN countries on the sidelines of the ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting in Jakarta. But that is very welcome. And actually, we exhort our ASEAN counterparts and ASEAN countries in order to support our claims against further intrusions by China. Because today, the Philippines, tomorrow, we don't know.
Yeah. Has there been, meron na hubang sabihin po natin, nagpahiwatig o tried to reach out, sir, among our ASEAN neighbors after this collision?
So far, on the defense side, none. I would not go on the foreign affairs side.
All right.
I'm sure there have been engagements on the foreign affairs side.
Okay, fair enough, sir. So let's set that aside already, because during the command conference, I think this was Monday or Tuesday, sir, the National Task Force on the West Philippine Sea had a press conference almost simultaneously with the President and defense officials. You were there together with other top officials, and the President asked the PCG, the Philippine Coast Guard, to conduct an investigation. Sir, was there a time frame given? Did he say that this needed to be submitted as soon as possible? And what will happen after the submission of this report, sir?
The President said a legal, and because there are maritime procedures for collisions, and we want to make sure that international and domestic regulations are followed. So the Coast Guard is conducting a proper and legitimate collision investigation because of this incident, in accordance with international and domestic legal requirements. So I do not know when the investigation will terminate and when a conclusion or a report will come out. Perhaps it's a good question to ask Admiral Gavan of the Philippine Coast Guard.
Actually, I just wanted to get a support answer from you. He had answered that with about, I think he said 7 days, if I'm not mistaken, sir. So the question...
Notionally 5 days, but there are procedural requirements that he needs to follow. So the 5 days should be counted from the time probably that the legal framework for the investigation is established.
Again, sir, another short break. We'll be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our source today, Defense Chief Gibo Teodoro. Secretary, I would hate to think of what could happen next, but obviously this is something that needs to be thought of, from the laser pointing to the water cannon and then now to this collision. I guess the question is, are we prepared if something worse actually happens, sir?
Well, we are prepared as best as we can, and certainly we're not trying to provoke a big incident. We're just doing what we need to do to stand up for our rights. The calculation is always being done as to cost benefit of what we're doing, but yet the costs of subjecting ourselves to the jurisdiction of China far outweigh are far outweighed by the benefits of securing our sovereignty. The farthest thing on our mind is to warmonger. We're just standing up for our rights and trying to place a spine on our sovereignty and territorial integrity. So your concern is as great as everyone in the defense establishment. However, we do not control an irresponsible, bigger and more powerful actor. Yet to be subjugated by them is not only a violation of the Constitution, but a moral wrong to our people and the future generations.
Personally, sir, when you heard about what happened, how did you feel?
Of course, I felt very angry about it. Although one cannot afford to let one's emotions overcome the judgment that you need to do under the circumstances. Constant calculations need to be weighed. I've been quite forceful in my statements for the past week because this is to counter the narrative that China is giving, and so that our people understand in clear language what the falsity of this narrative. And that is the only reason why I've been quite forceful in my language, so that it transcends classes in our society.
Yeah. Very quickly, sir, the BRP Sierra Madre, World War II era warship, ano po, that definitely needs to be maintained. I know that there's a lot that you cannot divulge, ano po. Just quickly, I wanted to bring this in. It was from the Inquirer.net. They were saying that Joshua Espeña, a resident fellow of the think tank International Defense and Security Cooperation, basically saying that China wants to get rid of the BRP Sierra Madre and eventually have it removed from the West Philippine Sea, sir. How can we ascertain that it stays there and it stays livable, and siguro, sir, that it just doesn't get destroyed?
We will do what we need to do. And it's not for any country to tell us what we can do and what we can't do in the Union Shoal. The President has reiterated this time and time again. And we will we will make certain, rather, not ascertain, we will make certain that our presence in the area is maintained.
Defense Secretary Gibo Teodoro, sir, always a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Likewise, Pinky, thank you very much. And to all the televiewers, pleasant good morning to each and every one of you.
Good morning, sir. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.